Welcome to Carver Conversations, a Sabertooth podcast. I'm your host, Tiff Marchand from Night Carver Designs, and I am super excited to have Blake Mcfarland from BM Sculptures on the show today. I got to meet him recently at Workbench Con, and I really fell in love with all the work that he makes, so I was very excited to get him on here today. I just want to let you guys know that we appreciate you listening, and we have a special show code for you, EM2CO in all caps. It'll get you 10% off your purchase. All right, now on to the show. I hope you enjoy. Thank you for joining us. I kind of just did a little stalking on you because I like to have things fresh in my head.
Well, thank you for having me. I'm excited.
Yeah, no, I'm pumped. Like I told you, ever since I believe you were working on The Whale during a Workbench Con, I'm like, I gotta talk to him. I want to hang out with him. I'm like, his work is just too cool not to. So
well, thank you so much. I remember I was storing it in the room that you guys were in. That was pretty funny. I'm like, can I store my whale in your room?
Yes. I was gonna say that's like the best way to meet somebody, like with like that kind of a question,
Yeah.
Well, I saw you had an interview on your YouTube page, which was really good, by the way. It's like a 4.5 minute one, but it's a nice little kind of recap on your life of.
Thank you. Oh, the one from like a while ago.
Like 3 years ago.
Yeah.
But I like that though, because it was like I love seeing like a time in somebody's life, like you were like, I'm gonna do both. I can handle both of, like baseball career and being an artist, but like. The juggle, the hustle. I love seeing that because that's how a lot of us are. We all like, you have your day job, but then you get bitten by this passion and it takes over. Like, I'm assuming that's what it's done to your life.
For sure. 100%. I mean, baseball was everything. And then can't go playing baseball forever. So art kind of took over once that was over, for sure.
That's cool. And like, just the medium that you started off with it. I saw that was like painting, which I mean, it's like the easiest gateway drug, right? Like, because you just some brushes, a board, and you're ready to go,
Yeah, for sure. There was like a painting in my house growing up that was just brutal. I mean, I walked by this painting every single day. It was this koi fish, and it was like one of those abstract koi fish paintings that to me looked like a 5-year-old could have done in 2 minutes. And it was in this nice frame, just never thought anything of it. And then one day I just walked by, I'm like, Mom, this painting sucks. Why do you have this framed in the house? And so I went out and got my first set of acrylics and I did a painting and just fell in love with it from then on. And spent my first 2 or 3 off seasons during my baseball career painting and selling paintings for my off-season job. So that's kind of how I got into art initially.
What were you painting? Like just like scenery or?
Scenery, a lot of ocean scenes.
Oh, cool.
I lived 30 minutes away from Santa Cruz and just love everything about the ocean. I'm a big surfer and free diver and spear fisherman. Cool. So a lot of just ocean scenery and waves and beaches and things like that.
Yeah, that's cool. What'd you lead into next then? Because I know you got eventually like to tire art, but like how'd you get from painting to that? Because it's quite a jump. Yeah, it's like a big jump.
Quite a jump, yeah. So I was selling paintings and painting on surfboards for my first 3, or actually it was my first 2 off seasons of my baseball career. And it was the 3rd year where I kind of realized, hey, if baseball took a hit, I wouldn't be able to sustain myself selling paintings. So I need to really think outside the box here and go way off the grid. And that's where I kind of stumbled upon tires. And sculpture is something that I wanted to get into for a long time. I've always loved just making things and carving things. So I always knew that when I had more time, sculptures are kind of where I wanted to get into.
That's cool.
But anyways, tires, I just saw there was a playground with a dragon serpent thing made out of these big tractor tires. And from there, it kind of sparked my interest. Hey, these tires are just everywhere on the side of the road. I could just pick them up and see if I can make something with this. And long story short, I spent probably 4 or 5 months trying to figure out how to work with these tires, and not knowing that all car tires are steel reinforced and impossible to cut through.
Oh, I
So
didn't know that either.
yeah, I spent so many hours trying to cut through these steel car tires, and just it's not happening. So I found bicycle tires. That's what I do all my tire
Okay.
sculptures out of. They're bicycle tires. Yeah, and I spent 3 or 4 months trying to figure out how to do this, and I built this little bobcat, and looking back at it now, it was absolutely terrible. But I made flyers, and I didn't know how to get into the art world or art galleries, so I made
Mhm.
flyers of this little tire bobcat, and I put it underneath the door of art galleries.
There you go.
And I was lucky enough to get a call back like 6 months later, and this gallery actually run by Vernon Davis, who was a 49er back then. He was a tight end for the 49ers. Since he's played with a lot of other teams, but he owned an art gallery there, and he took it on, and he actually bought that very first bobcat, and then he ended up
That's so
taking
cool.
on like 3 more sculptures onto his gallery, and that's kind of how the whole tire sculptor sculpting career started, and it was with Vernon and his little gallery.
I really like that though, because like to see another athlete who has those same passions as you, like they really love sports, but there's also that passion to create. So
Yeah,
that's
and he
really
was
neat.
very much like that as well. I mean, he was a A-list athlete, and he also ran this gallery, and he's a painter as well. So it was pretty cool. Um, Again, yeah, having
Yeah.
another athlete into the art world, it was really cool.
Yeah. That's a nice like entry to it.
Yeah, for
Three
sure.
dimensional, like it's just so fun. Like I totally want to get into sculpture more too, and make more three-dimensional art, just to be able to walk around something and constantly see something new. Like
Hmm.
it's got to be a lot of fun to create that for people.
Yeah, I mean, you pretty much do it. You just need the other side of
Yeah.
it. I mean, you do
Flip it over.
yeah, a relief is basically a
Yes,
three-dimensional thing
for
if you just
sure.
fill out the backside. So yeah, you'd be great at it. I'd love to
Yeah.
see what you can create.
Sabretooth hooked me up with a ton of 1/8 inch burrs. So watch out, world, because it's
Nice.
coming. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
But I think that's really neat though. Just making that leap, and like getting to that next level. So did you work with like, first of all, bike tires is a super smart solution to that issue. When you were telling that story, I was sitting there, I'm like, how do you cut a real like car tire? Like it's not
Yeah.
happening. They're so thick. That's why you just see people just like wrap rope around them. And you know
Hmm.
what I mean? Like,
Right?
how can I refashion this form? Because the form is not going to change, but I can add to it.
Yeah, I threw every tool I had at that car tire, and nothing works because you can cut through steel, right, with like
Hmm.
metal bits, but what you don't account for is the thick rubber. That rubber will end up burning, and then it won't cut. So it's like it's not only the steel, it's the rubber surrounding the
Yeah.
steel that I just could not cut through it.
But it sparked the idea,
Yeah, for sure,
you
for
know,
sure.
it got you
Yeah,
there.
yeah.
That's cool. So how did, like, how many years were you doing that for before you got on the show making it? Because like I'm kind of curious how that led you there.
Oh, making it was recent. Making it was 2 years ago now. So kind of so I played baseball for the Toronto Blue Jays organization for 8 years. Um, I retired in 2017 due to
Oh,
a shoulder injury. So since then it's been full time, and I think it was. I'm trying to remember when making it was now. That was 2 years ago,
it
but
must have been 2 years ago. Yeah.
yeah, that was 2 years ago. And how that kind of happened is I just got a random DM on Instagram from a
Perfect.
from a casting director, and they said, "Hey, you should apply to this show." And so from there, I just kind of like binge watched it, and I'm like, "Oh, this show's really cool. I would definitely want to apply to this and try and be on this." So that's kind of how I got on that, and it was just kind of a long process to actually get on it. I mean, there was so many there's probably like 5 or 6 1-hour interviews just to
Was
like
there?
make it to the next round. It was crazy. I mean, it was like a full-time
I get really curious on that because I've gotten those DMs before. Paintings.
It's a
Okay.
long road just to get there, and it's like almost like, is it worth it?
Yeah.
And then it's like at the point I've done this so many up to now, like I might as well go through it. But making it was such a fun experience, and obviously Jimmy got to see Jimmy, and then Nick and Amy and all the other contestants. It really made it worth it. It was a blast just to be there and see how everything works and meet everyone and all the other makers. So it was a really, really cool experience.
Yeah, that's where I first saw you. And then obviously I followed your page from there. So it must have helped at least give you nice exposure to people so they can to see the other, the artists instead of just knowing you as the baseball player.
Definitely. And that's kind of I guess I don't want to say I struggle with it, but it is always weird when someone or people just put you in a box, like he's just the baseball player or he's just the artist. Like I want to be both. Multiple things. Why can't we all just be multiple things? Like there's no box that we should be able to be put into,
Yeah, exactly. I mean, so many of us do so many different things. It is like the whole niche down thing that we all get that pressure to do. And it's like, well, no, like I want to work with tires, but now I want to work with epoxy and wood. Like things change.
For sure. Yeah.
How did you make that next leap to different materials? Like, because I see you kind of like have like your periods where you stay in things and then it's like, well, let me try this next.
It's all just me getting bored, I think.
Yeah.
I literally just get bored doing the same thing or the same material. And that's kind of how all of this happened so far. Like painting. I mean, get a little bored doing painting, and then I try and go into the tire sculpture. And then once I only do tire sculptures and I'm known as the tire guy, like I don't want to be just that guy. And that's when I kind of got more into woodworking, and I've always been fascinated with epoxy. I used to do a lot of restorations, and I used to make kind of intricate wood and epoxy handles. So that's kind of my initial learning experience with an epoxy. And then from there, I kind of just jump started like, hey, what if I actually do full carvings out of epoxy and wood? And that's kind of what's been my sole thing the past, I guess, year to 2 years is these wooden epoxy sculptures. And I'm super excited about them. And just really, it makes me happy just being able to carve this material, and something that I haven't seen out there before. And it's just pretty cool that I get to do it.
Yeah, and it's like you said, it's something new. And I like how you angle each one of your boards, like when you're building the inside of it, like you don't just have like square blocks in there. Like there's different shapes and avenues for the eye to look at, like when they're staring at your final pieces. Plus you got to play with new tools. Yeah,
right. I think one of the coolest things for me is like I have the big block that I spent so much time on of the epoxy and wood, but you really don't know what's going to show once you do the carving. Right. So it's like opening up a present when you get to like polish it and sand it and actually see what wood is showing on the outside and through the epoxy. So it's like, it's just my favorite part of every sculpture is just not knowing what the inside is going to look like until the very end. It's pretty rewarding to see at the very end.
Yeah, right. Because epoxy is so opaque when you don't have that final coating on, so it stays a mystery for you for quite a while.
Oh, up until the very end.
Yeah,
I don't know what it looks like until literally the polish is on it.
There's no cheating. You don't just water splash it.
Maybe a little bit. Yeah, all right, you caught me. You caught me.
I'd be over there with a spritz bottle, like. Ooh.
Right.
You have to get a little peek.
Yeah, there's a little peek in
there. Yeah. What did you start with for tools? I'm curious. I know you've got into probably just about every different brand of tool to carve these, but what did you start with to start attacking these?
The majority of my carvings are all the angle grinder. And that's kind of what I started, is just bulking out the material with the super low grit discs. And I've recently been using the saber tooth. I don't know what the grit is, but it's like just the super aggressive donut, and that thing just hogs out material. So I'd say the bulk of these sculptures is all with that. And then a chainsaw. And a chainsaw I'm kind of starting to fall in love with is just
Mm,
these chainsaws. And I just finally got the bar of the chainsaw. You could actually get special carving ones, which
mm-hmm.
I didn't know until recently. So I just got one that's kind of precise, and it's a lot thinner at the tip, so I could really get in there with
Yeah.
details. I haven't used it yet, but I'm super excited. And yeah, I just love using the chainsaw now as well, because you take just this block and you can cut off such big chunks, and you start to see the shape just in a matter of minutes, which
Immediately.
is
Yeah,
really, really fun.
for sure. I definitely want to start playing with chainsaws myself.
It's
And yeah,
it's
whenever I
fun.
see somebody bust them out, I'm like, ah,
It's really fun. You should try.
that's cool. I'm also a big fan of the angle grinders myself because of the same thing. It takes off a lot of material very quickly,
Mhm.
and you get to see that reveal almost immediately. Not as fast as a chainsaw,
Yeah.
but it is nice to kind of work in there. What is your favorite shape when it comes to like the actual hand tools that you use? Like, do you use a lot of smaller burrs or is it mostly just bigger things?
So I'll go kind of the progression. I'll do the chainsaw, then it'll go to the angle grinder to get more bulk material, and then I'll go to the die grinder. I say I do probably more die grinding. And for those listening who don't know, die grinder is just a really big rotary
Rotary
tool.
tool.
It's a quarter of an inch, whereas a normal like Dremel or rotary tool is an eighth of an inch, I
Yep.
believe.
Yep.
So I'll go to that, and then I'll finish and do all the smaller details with the eighth inch. So for those burrs, I'll honestly use
Every,
almost every
right?
single one, right? I mean, you need burrs with all these different shapes in order to make these different shapes, you know.
Yeah.
Um, I use one that I don't even know what you would call it. It's like a long barrel.
Mm-hmm.
And I use that one a lot because I have to get, like, if you're thinking of like an
The
animal with legs, you have to get really deep
yeah.
inside or in between spaces. So the longer the shank or the burr is, I think the better for me, because I could get into these hard to reach places.
Yeah. They're
Yeah.
called ball nose. I'm just
Ball
learning all
nose.
this.
Yeah.
The
What do
ball
you?
nose, I'm starting to fall in love with a ton too. Even and they make those really thin ones too. So like you can I was actually writing with it the other day
That's
because it
awesome.
had so much control. I was like, oh, I can actually just like draw a straight line and I'm like, like I'm just starting to get used to the 1/8 inchers. Like
Mhm.
before I was like just like all wheel because I was just doing the sides of my signs and I was
Mhm.
doing like divots inside. But now that I'm trying to go more 3-dimensional, it's like, all right, now I got to start playing with the smaller ones. I still haven't
Yeah.
tried a die grinder, but everybody seems to fall in love with them. Like,
It's just a bigger Dremel tool or
yeah.
rotary tool. But again, with that, it is bigger and bulkier and heavier. But if you're
Hmm.
doing a large piece, it makes sense to use something like that.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. When you want to do the finer details, then you want a lighter tool.
For
Yeah.
sure.
Yeah. I
Yeah.
know. I think that's why everybody falls in love with carving though, is because you get to use so many tools at once. Like it's not
Yeah.
just like one thing. It's like, and now it's time for this, you know?
Right. Yeah. No, and they have all the different grits. So like you could feather things out um and have to sand less at the end,
Hmm.
which is nice as well.
That's true. Yeah, exactly. Like slowly get that to minimal sand. Yeah, that's
Yeah.
Jody at Sabretooth. I don't you've talked to her a little bit, I believe, but
Mhm.
she's the one who came up with the whisper grit and just the white ones. It's the white ones
Yeah.
that they're extra fine because people were complaining about having to sand a lot. And she goes, well, let's see what we can do. And those things, the control that you get off of them is so exciting to me because I know, the jumping, if you're using a really coarse burr,
Yeah.
it can be scary and you don't want to make a line that you didn't intend to make on, on
Yeah,
your
right.
piece. So having those, I've been really falling in love with them because like they take off so much material. So,
I'm gonna have to try one. I haven't tried one yet,
oh
so I
yeah,
need to. Yeah,
try the,
whatever gets it to less sanding, I'm all
hmm
about.
yeah, that's as fine as they could go. So it should be nice. If she sent you some of those, try the white ones. You'll love it.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I
that'd be
like that they
cool.
color code them. You know what I
For
mean? Like
sure.
you may not know the grit, but you're like, the yellow. I
Yeah,
use the
yeah.
yellow on this, and that's where it's
Yeah.
at.
Right.
So, a little bit about you. Like, where are you? Where are you
I'm in
located?
Clovis, California, basically Central California.
Oh, cool.
My wife and family, I have a 3-year-old and a 7-month-old boy.
Oh, okay.
Daughter is the 3-year-old, so they kind of run our lives right now.
Mm-hmm.
And we're here. My wife's a physician doing her first year of fellowship, so we're here for
Oh,
another
cool.
2 years, and then we'll probably move back to the Bay Area, pending what the housing market is like.
Mm,
but yeah, so Central California for now.
that's cool. It makes sense then why you do a lot of like outdoor art installations. Like I've seen quite a few come out of your shop recently.
Yeah.
Those are neat. Like, was there one with feathers? I think.
Yeah,
Was
yeah,
it
yeah.
metal feathers?
Yeah, metal feathers with recycled tires as well.
Yes. So
Yeah,
you weld
I
then as
do
well.
weld.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah, when I started out with my tire sculptures, the tire sculptures are really two sculptures in one. There's the infrastructure,
Mm-hmm.
and that I'll do a welded up armature, and then I'll do a foam carving, and then it'll be fiberglassed, and then it'll be the tires will be put on. So
At
it's
the
kind
end.
of like two sculptures in one. It's the whole foam carving and then the tire application.
Foam carving looks a lot of fun. Very messy looking. Like,
You
but it
would
looks
love it.
fun.
I
Yeah, I was
mean,
gonna say it looks a lot of
like
fun.
you can make something so quick and you get to use more tools.
Mm-hmm.
They have the they have the, why am I blanking right now, the heat, what's it called, the hot knives and the hot
Oh, yes.
wires that just slice off
Slice through it.
material, and it's so fun to work with, but a little bit, you need some ventilation, or you might come out wobbling.
Little toxic
A
smelling.
little toxic, yeah. Yeah.
I don't know if you follow Andrew from AG Does It. He's in California as well. And he's been doing more and more sculptures with foam. And I see him with that hot wire. And it's amazing what you can get done and how quick it is. Like you said, how
So
fast the
quick.
results are, like
Yeah.
insane.
Yeah, nothing beats it. I mean, you could do a full like life-size sculpture in a couple days.
Yeah,
It's pretty cool.
that's neat. You just spray the foam on, or do you actually order like big foam sheets and stuff? How does that work?
So I used to actually pour my own foam.
Okay.
That is just a mess. So now I'll now I'll go get pink insulation foam. You could use
Okay.
EPS, which is the white beaded foam.
Mm-hmm.
I actually like the pink foam more because it's a lot more dense and just a little more hardy.
That makes
And then I'll
sense.
just laminate sheets together. So they come in 4x8 sheets by
Okay.
2 inches. And I'll have to, if I do like a life size sculpture, I'll have to just laminate like 10 of those or 20 of those together and then do the carving from there.
You know, I want to play now, right? I'm like,
Yeah,
I can do that.
yeah, no, it's awesome. You would love it.
Yeah. I'm like, Halloween's coming.
A
What
lot
can I
of
make?
a lot of Halloween decorations are that foam. Actually, one of the girls on the show making it is like solely a foam carver, and she does tons of Halloween stuff, all foam, and it's she does really amazing work.
All right. I'm going to have to look her up later. That sounds
Kara
awesome.
Walker.
Kara Walker. Okay.
Yeah,
All
yeah.
right. When I'm editing, I'm going to be like writing that down. That's cool. Who inspires you out there? I'm curious. You have somebody that just you truly just love what they do and kind of want to emulate that?
Yeah, so when I first, actually before I started YouTube, I was just blown away by Bobby Dukes. Do you know Bobby
Oh,
Duke?
yes.
Yeah,
Yes.
blown away by his work. And I
Hmm.
actually modeled like my first 5 or 6 YouTube videos kind of off him, like trying to, not copying him obviously or doing anything like him, but just his video style and just the details he puts into his sculptures. So
Hmm.
he is really one of my biggest inspirations early on. And then from there, it's just I watch so many different carvers and woodworkers and learn from everybody across
Mm.
YouTube. There's I'm blanking on his name, Snickets.
Ooh, I
You
don't
might
know.
know him. He carves these walking sticks.
Oh,
Amazing, a lot of snake, like a lot of like
oh,
super realistic snake walking
okay.
sticks. He's amazing carver. absolutely amazing. But YouTube is a magical place. I mean, I've learned literally everything I know in the carving and woodworking world off watching other people and learning off other people. So it's a very cool tool to use.
I agree. It's one of those things that kind of eliminates the barrier to entry. You know what I mean? Like, because you're not just seeing a tool and having no clue how to use it. You're watching somebody in not real time, but you get to watch somebody using those tools and learn from what their techniques, how they proceeded to build something, like you can just learn so much just by observing. So
For sure.
I
Yeah. And
agree.
all of like Jimmy's Jimmy DiResta, if you don't know who we're talking about. Jimmy DiResta, all his like tips and tricks videos, I absolutely love. I
Yeah.
use so many of his little tricks.
I was the same way, by the way, with Bobby Dukes inspiring me. He's somebody who was on the top of my list too. Just seeing him show his personality, first of all, which is hilarious.
Yeah.
But then also he's making these like knockout little sculptures, and you're just like, oh shit, this is cool. Like, I didn't know you could carve that rock and turn it into this, or, like
right. Like
mind blowing.
A lot of different materials he uses and kind of shows you all these things. Like one of my favorites is he carves an 8-ball.
Yes.
Like the billiards ball. Like it's so cool. Who would have thought you can carve that?
Yeah. Yep. He pushes those boundaries. But I feel like you do that too, though, like showing people with what you can do with foam and fiberglass and tires. Like somebody might not have tried that before. And, I'm sure people have been trying that style. I'm sure you see that pop up now. And it must feel kind of cool to say, like, I inspired that, or I might have had some part of that,
Yeah, it's definitely cool if someone like reaches out and say, hey, check this out. I was inspired. I mean, that just makes my day. I love seeing it and hope other people get inspired and can also want to do something like that. It just, it's pretty cool.
Yeah, no, it's neat. When I see somebody try power carving for the first time, then they tag me, I'm just like, you know what I mean? Like, it's just like, okay.
Right.
Thank
Makes
you.
your day.
Yeah, it does. You just sit there and you just like get that cheesy smile on your face. And I usually do tell them that too. I'm like, thank you for the grin. Like,
that's
because
awesome.
it's cool to see others like we did. We watched somebody, you got that, you kind of get hooked, like that could be a lot of fun. And then now they're out there and they're doing it and they're enjoying themselves. Because honestly, art's about being enjoyed. Like, enjoy looking at it, but also enjoy making it.
For sure. Yeah. 100%.
So what is like your dream job? Like, is there something that you really, really want to make and you hope somebody commissions from you? Like, I'm curious.
It's tough. I think one of my dream sculptures would be like a big public, a public sculpture, like I don't know if it's different in every state, but there's like a percentage of funds. If you build a new building in a public space, there's a percentage of funds that has to go to art. In California, like I think it's like 2 or 3% of the building or the funds have to go to art. Anyways, there's
no, that's cool
art.
To know. I didn't know that.
Let's just say there's like a roundabout or a new building being built. They will kind of give you what they're looking for, and then you have to do submissions and letters of statement. I mean, you have to do a lot of work just to get seen. And I haven't got one yet, but that is a dream to get one of these big public offerings. And with that being said, I do have one that I'm really excited about. I have a life-size bison sculpture that's going to be at a zoo in Wisconsin. I'm going to start that in about a month or so. So it's going to be a tire sculpture, like it's going to be 12 feet long, 8 feet tall, big old bison out of tires. And I'm really excited for that. And that'll be displayed inside a zoo in Wisconsin. So that's one that I'm really looking forward to as well.
See, those are the really cool jobs to get, because then you can like just spend some time, traveling to see these afterwards. Like, let me just in 5 years, like, let me just check on that bison,
Right? Yeah.
I know I would.
Holding up. 100%. It's always a fear. Like, is it still going to be standing? What about that one leg that I did this weird thing to? Is that going to be okay?
That's a really cool job. Where do you work out of? Is it at a home, or do you have your own shop somewhere?
Yeah, I work out of I have a 2-car garage and then like an RV port. We're actually moving in like a week or
Oh,
2 weeks though. So I'm gonna be upgrading to a 4-car garage and an
oh,
RV port, which will be nice.
that's awesome.
Basically double my space, which would be really nice. But still, it's gonna be tough to get an 8 foot by 12 foot
That's
bison
yeah.
out of there.
Well, that's why I was
But
curious. Like, how is he going to get this thing accomplished?
yeah, I may have to just rent a warehouse for the bison, but I think if there's enough people to like tip him on its side, we could get him out. We'll see.
Just measure that garage door.
Yeah,
You
right.
know,
For sure.
we have clearance to build it, but can we get it out?
Yeah, no, that's something I've ran into that problem before. Is I've built something in the garage not thinking about the height of the garage door. I've had to like shave it off or like tip it at a really weird angle.
It's a real
Yeah, always
concern.
always think of doors and shipping. You have to
Mm,
think something that a lot of people don't think of is actually like what is the maximum size you could put in a semi truck.
yeah.
There's all size limits for everything. And now I kind of know that a little better than I did before.
I guess you have to run into those situations to learn, right?
For sure.
Because nobody
Yeah.
hands that information out. I mean, you just gave somebody a nice snippet to think about, you know? Because
Yeah.
I have been seeing a lot of wood carvers shipping things off to, like you said, museums or
Mm.
zoos. Like, it's really neat. I think I don't know if you've seen Ryan Villiers. He just did a bison, but it was kind of
Nice.
with a cartoon-ish face, and it's adorable. I'll have to send it to you after this.
Yeah, I want
But
to
it's
see
like
that.
it's like realistic, but also cartoon at the same time. So it's pretty
That's
neat.
awesome. Yeah, I want to
And
see that.
yeah, I think it's in a children's museum now. I'm like,
That's awesome.
but I thought my thoughts was, how did he get that thing there? How much did that thing cost to get shipped there? Because it's
Is it
amazing.
solid wood? Is it
Yeah,
wood?
it's wood. Yeah,
How big is it, like life size?
I think so. I'm gonna send it to you afterwards.
Wow.
You're gonna have to look
I
at it.
really want to see this.
And he's in
Yeah.
Canada. He's in like I think he's in Alberta, which is pretty
Nice.
rural. So
Yeah.
just imagining like having to get that transported to wherever it went.
Yeah. That's
But
that's a pricey
right.
shipping. Yeah.
How do you book things? Like, do you have people coming to you steadily, or do you actually like pitch ideas too? I guess when it comes to like those buildings and you're saying like having to go on a website and pitch your idea there, but how does your work normally get to you?
Yeah. Normally it's changed over the past 2 years, but previously it was almost all through my website. Um,
Yeah.
just a lot of marketing companies like searching for, I guess, random sculptures to
Sculptors.
enhance their events, and that's how I've been lucky enough to work with Goodyear for the past like 6 years.
That's great.
Um, those are just marketing companies kind of coming to my website for different events and things like that. And then also mixed in there are a couple of like private residents that just want sculptures. But as of recently, it's almost all been off YouTube. Like people that see
Oh,
the
that's
videos on
awesome.
YouTube, then they'll reach out and say, "Hey, I want this. Can you do this?" So it's really changed in the past 2 years, where it was a little bit slower and more just Google search, I guess, and they
Yep.
found me. And now it's just more YouTube where they're coming in. And honestly, it's almost all the wood and epoxy sculptures now that's coming in. But I'm super fortunate to be able to book these clients in advance and
Mm,
have them on the schedule, and it keeps me really busy. So it's fun.
that's great. No, that's awesome. And just to know that you could provide for yourself in a way like that, like from you've kind of done that your whole life. You made money off of playing baseball at first, and then now you're doing it after making art. Like, it's got to be a good feeling to know people want to pay you to be out there, either, performing for them or creating something. Like, it's nice to have that support.
Yeah, no, definitely. I'm very, very fortunate, and I get to do a dream job, so I wouldn't have it any other way. It's so much fun and so rewarding.
How are you liking the maker community? Like, I know you went to Workbench Con. Was that your first one?
Yeah, that was my first one, and I went in there super nervous. Like I didn't know anybody. I mean,
Yeah,
well, I lied. I knew the people over at Moss Epoxies because I've
right.
been working with their stuff for a while. Besides that, I knew no one, and I was super nervous, kind of by there by myself. But the maker community is so supportive. I
They
mean,
are.
I mean, I talked to so many different people and just everyone is so welcoming and just really, really energetic and excited and just really fun to be around. So it's quite a very cool community that's around us for sure.
I'm sure that it kind of like had you dive in deeper with all of us too after being like there and getting to meet all those folks. Like we really are. I like how you use energetic because totally that's how everybody is when they're together. Like there's just like you can't stop. It's like beaming off of you because you know that person you're talking to also enjoys using power tools, and
Yeah,
they
right.
also don't mind getting dirty making stuff. Like, because it's a certain kind of person who doesn't mind being covered in sawdust,
Covered in sawdust. Yeah, and it's just cool that these people that you've been watching and seeing them make, you actually get to put a face behind
Yeah.
their work, and it's just really cool to actually see them in person and now start seeing the stuff that they do and actually know them, and
Hmm.
it's really really cool.
Yeah. And that's exactly what we're trying to do with like this podcast is like, yeah, you see this person carve and or build or make this stuff, but what do you know about them? Like
Mhm.
let's try to give more highlights to the person, not just what they make.
That's really really cool that they're opening up this platform and that you're taking it on and doing a hell of a job at it.
Oh,
Let me
thanks,
say.
man. Thank you. But how you've surfed your whole life? Like that's just something you've always done. So you've just kind of always
Yeah,
been.
yeah, just absolutely fell in love with it when I was very young. I think my parents put me and my brother in a little surf camp, not a camp, but they gave us a lesson at like 7 or 8 years old, and we've been literally hooked ever since. So
That's so cool.
anywhere by the ocean, we always check for waves and all that. So I absolutely love the ocean.
But no, that's cool. I can see why though you were inspired to make, like you said, beach themed art, like water
Mhm.
themed art, because it's so prevalent there.
Yeah, I mean, I remember even when I was really, really young. I mean, fifth, sixth grade, I was always drawing waves in class. I
Yeah.
was just drawing waves, and that's again kind of probably um, what started my painting career. Is I always used to draw too. I mean, in class, I just have so many notebooks of just drawings and
Mm-hmm.
maybe not classwork, which should have been in those notebooks, but it's all just
It's okay. I
uh,
can relate.
waves.
That's neat. So what are you working on now? Are you prepping for your next one, right? Because you're releasing a new video soon.
Yeah, so I finished at this point. I finished a bear, an epoxy and wood bear sculpture.
Okay.
I'm kind of working on editing and finishing that video, which will be out Sunday. And then I have another wooden epoxy sculpture and then a tire sculpture that I'm working on. So I'm kind of at the beginning stages of just setting up and milling up wood for another sculpture for that. So I'm kind of finishing one and starting the next right now.
I saw like you have like a freezer or something that you put your I was watching you do your it must have been for the bear that you just finished, but
Yeah.
just like the amount of work that just to cure that epoxy and get it set to before you even try carving it. There's a lot of prep.
Yeah, it's honestly been a huge learning experience for me is trying to do these epoxy pours because anyone that's not familiar with epoxy, you can only pour it 2 inches thick at a time.
Hmm.
And when you do that, you'll actually see, no matter how you pour it, you will see a layer, a seam line in between your pores.
Okay.
So my biggest problem was how do I get rid of these layers? And I kind of just went to the drawing board and just brainstorming ideas, and I thought of this refrigerator. The temperature actually slows down the curing process, so it
Hmm.
doesn't overheat. The problem is if you pour over 2 inches at a time, it'll heat up and you'll get bubbles and fractures, and everything will be ruined. So it's all
Exothermic
about
reaction, right?
exothermic reaction. Yep, nailed it. So
Yeah.
it's all about not getting that reaction. So by cooling everything down, it delays the cure time and it makes it so that reaction won't happen or won't happen enough to make fractures and bubbles. So it was really
Okay.
just a huge learning experience, and that's how I do all my pours now inside this refrigerator. And I could do up to 8, 10 inch pours at a time, and we're talking like
Oh, okay.
anywhere from 8 to 12 gallons of epoxy at a time, which would normally take me 2 or 3 weeks to do in layers. Now I could do it all at one time, and it'll cure within a week or a week and a half.
And when you're carving, do you feel a difference when you hit the wood compared to just the epoxy? Like, I'm kind of curious on that.
Big time. And that's actually a problem as well. And not only the epoxy to the wood, but when I do different wood species next to each other,
Oh, yeah.
it can get really tricky. So if I have a piece of Buckeye burl, which is super soft, next to say zebra wood is super dense.
Mm-hmm.
If I have those woods right next to each other and I take that angle grinder and go right across it, I'm just gonna eat away that Buckeye burl, like
Right.
completely eat it away. And it's really hard to kind of feather them at the same time. And that's kind of the same with the epoxy. The epoxy is going to be a lot harder than most woods. And I'd say even zebra wood might be harder than the epoxy.
Okay.
But yeah, it's definitely, you'll feel a little bit of that transition, and you just have to be aware of it, that hey, this softer wood's coming, so let me be a little bit delicate
Yeah,
here.
pull up a little
Um,
bit.
yeah. And then sanding is like epoxy sands actually really, really well. Like you
Oh,
can
okay.
see, I don't know if it sands really well or if you could just see the spots you missed really well, because you can easily see spots that aren't sanded as much as others. And it's pretty cool to see that transition. And epoxy just carves really, really well. It
Oh,
really does. Like
that's
even if it
cool.
was a solid epoxy sculpture, which I hope to do in the future, it carves surprisingly really well.
Do you go with more of a fine burr on that, or can anything it's good with?
I'll hit it with anything. Yeah.
Okay.
The
Yeah.
only thing I won't hit it with, um, you don't want to do any fine details, or you don't want to get anywhere close to your template lines with a chainsaw, because it can just blow chunks straight off.
Okay. Yeah, that makes
Um,
sense.
so that's where those actually, like the angle grinder discs actually work extremely well, because they won't chip. They'll
Yep.
just kind of like quickly take away material with zero chips, which is perfect.
Yeah, I figured I'd ask you because if people, watch this or, listen to it and they want to go in and try it, I figured might as well get your tips out now, like whatever you can help them avoid. Because
Yeah,
I'm,
all the burrs, anything that doesn't um have a blade to it works
gotcha.
really, really
Okay.
well with epoxy. So all the burrs work great. All
Okay.
the
That's awesome.
donuts and discs work fantastic.
All right. Good to know. Cause yeah, I I can imagine you try going in like with I always say it wrong, like the Mon Pa, like have like their multi
Yeah,
cutters.
yeah, yeah,
And I can
yeah.
imagine that must just because it's
Yep,
just
and
too
same
harsh.
with the Arbortech has the turbo planer, the
Mm-hmm.
turbo plane, and that'll just chip it. Like
Right
it'll
out.
just chip it right out. So I
Okay.
can't use that either.
Yeah. No, that makes sense then. Yeah, burrs all the way.
Burrs all the way.
Good for us. No, but it's good to know because you get in there and you leave these fine details. So I'm just looking at the rhino, for example, that you're able to get all of this detail out of that epoxy and it looks awesome. Like, and you have some very fragile spots on there, which
Very fragile spots.
would scare me. I'm looking at like the tail. Like I can just
Yeah.
imagine like the maneuvering of that in your shop. Like, don't
Oh
hit the
yeah.
tail, don't hit the tail, don't hit
I
the
know.
tail.
One mistake and that sculpture is done for.
hmm
Yeah.
No, it's crazy. Well, I like seeing where everything's growing on you and your use of anatomy. I want to talk about that too. It's incredible. Like
Thank you.
I saw just on a few of your videos, you actually do look up the anatomy for what you're creating, right? So you can kind of put the muscles and stuff where it should be.
Yeah, a lot of my tire sculptures I'll actually try and do muscle structure, like pretty accurate muscle structure if possible. And that kind of translates well to these epoxy and wood carvings. I'll actually hire a 3D artist to do a full 360-degree
Rendy.
rendering.
Yeah.
And I'll tell them, her name's Laura, who I work with, and she will kind of get the muscle structure on this rendering pretty good for me, how I want it.
Awesome.
And then from there, I have this perfect 3D rendering to actually carve off of, which really helps. And anyone who is kind of new or scared to carve, it's all about getting good reference pictures. I mean, I'm
Mm,
sure you know that if you want to carve something three-dimensional, if you have a perfect profile picture and then either a perfect overhead view or front view. You can use those as templates, and you can have a rough shape just out of those two reference pictures.
Oh, I appreciate you coming out and joining us for the show, and I hope you enjoy diving into those saber-tooth burrs more.
Yeah, no, thank you so much for having me. And it's an honor to be here and talk to you. And I want to thank you and Sabertooth for putting this on and sending me some burrs to try.
You're welcome.
Absolutely loved them up to this point and can't wait to use them more. For sure. Yeah, I can't wait to try them all. Yeah. I've done this new sculpture coming out. I've used it. It was my first time using them on that sculpture, and I've absolutely loved it.
Awesome.
And I'm excited to try some more on the next one.
Cool. Well, I look forward to seeing this video. You said it's coming out this Sunday?
Yeah, this Sunday.
Oh, that's perfect, because this episode's coming out on Monday. So
nice.
Yeah. Talk about that.
Yesterday. Watch it yesterday.
Yes, exactly. Go check out that YouTube video. All right. Well, have a great day and go enjoy your food.
All right. You as well. Have a good day.
Thank you. Bye. Thank you so much for listening. We hope you enjoyed the show. We wanted to highlight a few events that are coming up. There is the SWAT, which is the Southwest Association of Turners. It is their 30th event, and it's held in Waco, Texas, August 26th and 28th. So check that out. There's going to be over 63 people demonstrating and about 850 attendees. So it's a pretty big event, and it seems like it's going to be a lot of fun. And then there is the Maker Camp in the Catskills of New York, and that's happening in October the 7th through the 9th, and it's going to be a blast. I'm going to be there with Sadie from the Awesome Orange, and we're going to be doing live demos. There's going to be competitions, and we're going to have some really cool swag. So if you're attending that event, come say hi to us, come carve with us, and get yourself something cool. All right, have a great day. Thank you for listening, and feel free to share this with your friends so that they can check it out as well. We're really trying to spread the word. Have a great day and keep on carving.